My name is Elena Whitmore. I'm 35 years old. For a long time, I thought trust was something you built by being reasonable, by not overreacting, by giving people the benefit of the doubt even when a quieter voice inside you asked questions you didn't want to hear. I met Daniel Reeves 3 years ago at a friend's wedding. He was a groomsman. I was seated at the same table because we were both single and safe, according to the bride, meaning emotionally stable enough not to make the reception awkward. We spent the entire night talking, not flirting in the obvious way, talking about terrible reality TV, about how we both fell asleep to true crime podcasts, about how adulthood felt like pretending to understand wine. 2 days later, we had our first date, and then another, and another. Daniel was 33 when we met, charismatic without trying, the kind of man who made people feel listened to. He worked in operations for a consulting firm. Long hours, demanding projects, constant deadlines. He told stories well, made even office politics sound funny. The first 2 years were solid. We didn't live together by choice. That wasn't avoidance, it was intention. We both liked having our own space. I had a small house about 20 minutes outside the city. He had an apartment closer to his office. We stayed over constantly. It worked. We talked about moving in together someday. No rush, no pressure. That's what I loved most about us. Nothing felt forced. About 7 months ago, Daniel mentioned that his company had hired someone new, a woman, brought in to help with a major project he was managing. At first, it was nothing, just a name dropped casually. She's sharp. She's picking things up fast. She's saving me from drowning in spreadsheets. Over the next few weeks, her name came up more often. They were working late, grabbing dinner after long days, laughing about their demanding boss. I didn't think much of it. Daniel had always been friendly. He had work friends. He wasn't secretive. If anything, he was open to a fault. He'd text her while we watched TV, not hiding it. He'd laugh at something she sent and show me. "She's hilarious," he'd say. "You'd like her." I nodded. I didn't feel threatened. I was proud of that. Around month 3, he told me she'd invited him to a concert. "Do you want to come?" he asked. I didn't. It wasn't my thing. He went anyway. He texted throughout the night, sent pictures, told me about the opening act. It all felt normal. Then the concerts became regular. Then art openings, food pop-ups, brewery tours. Always things I wasn't particularly interested in. Always things he invited me to, but seemed relieved when I declined. "I'm glad you're not the jealous type," he said once. "A lot of women would be weird about this." I shrugged. "You're allowed to have friends. I trust you." And I meant it. But trust, I would later learn, is a powerful thing to hide behind. About 4 months in, I noticed smaller things. The way his phone angled slightly away from me when he typed. How he answered her messages instantly, but sometimes took hours to reply to mine. How conversations about us seemed to end faster than they used to. When I finally mentioned that we hadn't spent much time together lately, he got defensive. "We just had dinner 3 nights ago," he said. "Yes," I replied, "but you were on your phone most of the night." "I was dealing with work stuff." "Is it work or is it her?" His expression hardened. "Are you seriously doing this now, after 3 years?" The conversation went nowhere. We dropped it. Pretended everything was fine. And that's the thing about pretending. If you do it long enough, you almost believe it. If I'm honest, the shift didn't arrive like a storm. It crept in like humidity, slow, uncomfortable, easy to blame on the weather. Daniel became harder to pin down, not unavailable, exactly, just diffused, present in body, elsewhere in attention. When we were together, his phone buzzed more. He never hit it outright. He didn't need to. The confidence of someone who believes they've earned your trust is its own kind of cover. He'd glance at the screen, smile to himself, type back. Sometimes he'd read a message and not reply right away, just enough delay to look casual. Other times, he answered immediately, thumbs moving fast, familiar. I told myself it was work, big project, tight deadlines. I told myself that because it was easier than admitting the alternative, that my place in his life had quietly shifted and I hadn't been told. We still saw each other, technically. Dinners happened, weekends existed, but there was a new impatience in him when I lingered on a thought, when I wanted more than surface-level check-ins. One night over takeout, I asked him, carefully, if something was wrong. "With us?" He laughed, like the question itself was a misunderstanding. "No. Why would something be wrong?" "I don't know," I said. "It just feels like you're somewhere else lately." He exhaled, leaned back in his chair. Elena, you're reading into things. That phrase landed heavier than he intended, or maybe exactly as he intended. A few weeks later, the late nights started turning into patterns. He'd text that he was staying at the office longer than expected, or grabbing food nearby because it wasn't worth driving back. Once, twice, I didn't blink. By the third time, something in me tightened. When I asked follow-up questions, his tone shifted. You're doing that thing again. What thing? Making it weird. There it was, that phrase. Don't make this weird. It's a clever sentence. It frames curiosity as a flaw. It suggests that if something feels off, the problem is your reaction, not the situation. 2 weeks ago, on a Thursday night, my phone buzzed around 9. Daniel, working super late tonight. Might crash at my coworker's place since it's closer to the office. Her partner is totally fine with it. I stared at the message longer than I'd like to admit. Her partner. Not girlfriend, not wife, partner. Vague enough to be safe, flexible enough to discourage questions. I typed back slowly. Which coworker? I already knew the answer. So did he. Daniel, the one I've been working with on this project. I've mentioned her before. He hadn't used her name, not this time. Me. Okay, that feels a little sudden. The reply came fast. Daniel, don't make this weird. It's just practical. We're exhausted and have an early meeting. There it was again. The subtle accusation wrapped in reassurance. I stared at my screen, then typed the thing I always typed when I didn't want to be that woman. Do what you need to do. He didn't respond. That night, sleep refused me. I lay in bed replaying conversations from the past few months, noticing how many of them ended with me backing down, apologizing, adjusting. At 3 a.m, I was wide awake in my kitchen, staring at nothing, wondering when trust had turned into silence. The next morning, he texted, Morning, heading straight to work from here, talk later. No details, no acknowledgement, no reassurance. Friday crawled by. We had plans for Saturday dinner at a restaurant we'd been talking about for months. When I asked what time to pick him up, he replied that something had come up. Can we do next weekend instead? What came up, I asked. Just personal stuff I need to handle with her. Her. Stop, he added. You're being paranoid. That word settled in my chest like a weight. I wasn't being paranoid. I was paying attention. Saturday afternoon, restless and unable to focus, I did something I'd never done before. I looked her up. I didn't expect much. Maybe a locked profile. Maybe nothing at all. What I found instead was a carefully curated truth that didn't include me anywhere. And as I scrolled, the quiet unease I'd been swallowing for months and finally found its shape. Her profile wasn't private. That was the first thing that struck me. No barriers, no locked doors, just a public window into a life I wasn't supposed to see. I scrolled slowly, almost methodically, like I was afraid sudden movements might shatter something fragile. There were photos from months back, group shots, work events, casual dinners, and then there were the two of them. Not posed, not obvious, but familiar in a way that made my stomach tighten. The concert from earlier in the year. I recognized the lighting, the angle. He'd sent me photos from that night. Different ones. Cropped differently. Then I saw a hiking photo from 2 weeks ago. The same weekend, Daniel had told me he needed space and was going on a solo hike to clear his head. He'd even joked about bad cell service. In this photo, she was beside him, smiling into the sun, her arm just close enough to his that it felt intentional. Further down, a dinner I remembered clearly. He'd said it was a work function, a team thing, but the table in the photo was small, intimate, 2 glasses of wine, 2 plates. The comments made it worse. You two are adorable. When's the wedding? Power couple vibes. My hands were steady as I took screenshots. I surprised myself with that. No shaking, no tears, just clarity. I checked her relationship status. Single. Always had been. No mention of a partner. No photos to suggest one had ever existed. So much for her partner is totally fine with it. I sat with that information for the rest of Saturday. Didn't confront Daniel. Didn't let on that I knew anything. I watched him text me casually about his day, about being tired, about missing me. Every message felt rehearsed. Sunday morning, my phone buzzed again. Daniel, hey, might crash at her place again tonight. We're doing a work session today and it'll probably run late. I stared at the screen, then typed back something I'd never sent before. Then this should be fine too. I opened my camera roll and selected the screenshots. The hiking trip, the dinner, the best company post from Thursday night, showing 2 wine glasses on a coffee table. The comments shipping them as a couple, her profile showing single. Then I did something I knew would change everything. I went to Daniel's social media, scrolled through tagged photos until I found his mother. Sent her a message request. I didn't want to do this, but I think you deserve to know the truth. I attached the screenshots. Daniel told me he was staying at a coworker's place because her partner approved. There is no partner. These are just some of the things he's been hiding from me. I hit send at exactly 11 a.m. Then I turned off my phone. When I turned it back on at 6 that evening, the screen lit up with missed calls. 43 of them. 29 from Daniel, 14 from numbers I didn't recognize. The voicemails from him swung wildly, from rage to panic to desperation. What the hell did you do? You had no right. Call me back right now. The unknown numbers were calmer. His mother, his sister, his father. I listened to his father's voicemail first. Elena, this is Robert Reeves. I'd like to hear your side of what's going on. I called him back. Thank you for calling, he said after I explained. This is a lot. Daniel says you're taking things out of context. Ask him about the hiking trip, I said quietly. Ask him why he told me it was solo. Ask him why his coworker is listed as single. Ask him why he lied about her having a partner. Silence. Then, we're meeting tomorrow afternoon, all of us. Will you come? I agreed. Because at that point, the lie was already collapsing. I was just done pretending it wasn't. Walking into Daniel's parents' house felt like stepping onto a stage I hadn't auditioned for. I'd been there dozens of times over the last 3 years. Holidays, birthdays, casual Sunday lunches. It used to feel warm, familiar. That afternoon it felt tight, charged, like every surface was holding its breath. His mother opened the door. She didn't smile. Elena, she said, stepping aside. Come in. He's in the living room. Daniel was already seated on the couch when I walked in. His eyes were red. There was a box of tissues on the coffee table in front of him, already half empty. His sister sat close, one arm wrapped around his shoulders, her glare sharp and unapologetic. His parents sat across from them, stiff-backed, hands folded like they were bracing for impact. I took a chair by myself. No one offered me water. No one asked how I was. His mother spoke first. We're here because there's been a serious breakdown in trust. I want to hear from both of you, calmly, what's been happening. Daniel didn't hesitate. He's been paranoid for months, he said, voice shaky but practiced. I made a friend at work, someone I collaborate with, and Elena couldn't handle it. She went through social media, screenshotted things out of context, and sent them to my family to humiliate me. I almost laughed at the audacity. Private moments from a public profile. You had no right, he continued. You crossed a line. His sister jumped in immediately. This is manipulative. You don't drag parents into relationship problems. His father raised a hand. Let her speak. I unlocked my phone. Thursday night, I said evenly. Daniel told me he was staying at his coworker's place because her partner approved. I trusted him. The next morning, I found her social media. She's single, always has been. I handed my phone to his mother. She scrolled. Her face changed. I showed them everything. The hiking trip he'd called solo, the dinner he'd said was work-related, the comments joking about marriage, the timestamps, the lies. His sister scoffed. So they're friends. That proves nothing. If they're just friends, I said, meeting Daniel's eyes, why lie about her having a partner? He swallowed. Because I knew you'd react like this. So you lied preemptively, I said, because you assumed I couldn't handle the truth. His mother looked at him sharply. Is that true? He didn't answer. Did you sleep on the couch like you told her? His father asked quietly. Daniel hesitated. It was barely a second, but it was enough. We started on the couch, he said. I ended up in the guest room. His father leaned back, expression unreadable. So, he said slowly, you slept at a single woman's apartment, lied about her having a partner, lied about where you slept, and hid multiple outings for months. And you think the issue is that Elena is insecure. Daniel broke then. Tears, apologies, confessions in pieces. He admitted he'd stayed over more than once, that he'd developed feelings, that nothing physical had happened. His words, carefully chosen, that he'd been planning to break up with me eventually. Eventually? I repeated. He looked at me, helpless. I didn't know how. You could have told the truth, I said, at any point. There was nothing he could say to that. When I left, his father walked me to the door, apologized. His mother hugged me and whispered, you deserve better. Daniel's sister sent me a message that night calling me vindictive. I didn't respond. I didn't need to anymore. I thought the worst of it was over when I left that house. I was wrong. The next day, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something told me not to. Hi, is this Elena? A woman asked. Yes. This is Rachel. I work with Daniel. He said I could call. The coworker. Her voice wasn't defensive, it was hesitant, unsteady. I didn't know you existed until yesterday, she said. He told me he was single, that he'd ended a long relationship almost a year ago. I closed my eyes. We've been seeing each other for about 3 months, she continued. Pretty much since we started working together. I thought it was real. She told me everything. The overlapping timelines. The nights he'd canceled on me to see her. The version of me he'd described. Obsessive, jealous, unable to let go. An ex, not a girlfriend. He said you were having trouble accepting the breakup, she said quietly. I laughed then. Not because it was funny, because it was so precisely crafted. We compared stories for nearly an hour, filled in gaps, realized we'd both been living inside different narratives designed to keep us compliant. She ended it with him that same day. I don't date liars, she said, and I don't want to be someone's secret. Neither did I. The fallout rippled outward. Friends chose sides. Some believed his version, that I'd overreacted, invaded privacy, embarrassed him. Others saw the evidence, talked to his parents, and understood. I lost people. He did too. Daniel tried to reconcile 3 times. First through text, long paragraphs about mistakes, confusion, promises to change. I didn't respond. Second, he showed up at my house. I didn't let him in. Told him through the door that we were done. He left a letter taped to my door. I threw it away unopened. The third attempt came through a mutual friend offering to mediate. I declined. I blocked him everywhere after that. Phone, social media, email, complete silence. His mother called once, weeks later, just to check on me. She apologized again, said they were ashamed of how he'd handled everything. I thanked her. That call mattered more than she probably realized. 3 months have passed now. I'm okay. Not healed, not untouched, but grounded. Some days I miss the version of him I thought I knew. Most days I feel relief. Relief that I trusted myself. Relief that I stopped swallowing discomfort to preserve someone else's comfort. I started seeing someone new about a month ago. Slowly, carefully, we talk, honestly. When something feels off, we say it out loud. I kept the screenshots. Not to show anyone, not for revenge. As proof that I wasn't crazy. That sometimes the smallest lie, the unnecessary one, reveals the most dangerous truth. Her partner is totally fine with it. That sentence unraveled everything. Because it showed how easy lying was for him. How smoothly he maintained separate realities. How quickly he turned himself into the victim when the truth came out. If he'd been honest, it would have hurt. But it would have been survivable. The deception is what made it unforgivable. I learned that trust isn't blind faith. It's consistent honesty. And sometimes sending one screenshot to the right person at the right time saves you from months of continued betrayal.